So welcome back to the stream, guys. So as you know, last time I left a test to be written in our worker pool. So let's complete that one. And I'm thinking after some time, the test writing is tempting me to use AI, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Last test I wrote was processing the job successfully. Now I need to test the cases where job fails. Um, let's test if a handler fails, or it means a handler gives out an error. And oh, new picture. Uh, Next thing we will check is if the handler gives out a panic. These are the two test cases I want to test before moving on to the next test. So let's write about these t.run. Our test cases: handle failure, handle error in handler. If error occurs in handler, it should call for the worker pool should call for our retry queue. So let's write the functionality for this. The first thing we need to do is we have to set a variable like retry called. Retry called. Let's set it to false. And anything more? I need to also set a. I need to also create a work with groups. With group sync dot the wait group. All right. Next thing I will do is I'll add one to the wait group. It means the wait group is ready to go. Let's go with this one. Now let's create a mock retry engine. Retry equals to mock. Do I have a mock retry engine above any of these? None of these uses the mock retry engine. Let's call it ourselves for now. So let's create the handle failure function. This should result in retry called being set to true. Nothing fancy here. Let's call this one like I want it to be autocomplete. That's more like it. I will set retry called equals to true, and I will call the wait group to be done. Means the process has been done. Let's create a mock store. I think mock store implementation is here. I need only the update functionality from here. So let's copy it, paste it here. The mock store, the thing I need in update functionality is return nil. Nothing else. I don't want any feature from this one. Now coming to the handler will just spit out an error. So let's lock the handler and put it here. And it will spit out return errors dot new, uh, something like failed. Okay, this is it. And lastly, we need to register the handler to our mock registry. Okay, I think everything is looking good. Now let's call the worker pool like we did in the previous test. Do we need a manual? Yeah, I need a test queue like this. I also need to add the queue start and further. I will copy it exactly and use it. Now we have to test the outcomes. So let's create a job. I can copy the job to from here and have it here. The job will be job 2 for this one. Type will be remaining like test, and I will call wait group dot wait. So I'll wait for it to finish. After that, I need to check if the retry was false. If retry was not told, it means there was error. So I will throw that error off using t.error. I will simply call it error. So try engine was not called during handler failure. During or after handler failure. Like failure. Let's run this for once, and I need to pass it here instead of retry engine instance. I need to pass retry here, and anything else I need to do. Let's check the test. The test functionality is looking good. And where is this quickly manufactured? Okay, I imported it from. That's why. So let's call it out. Wait a second. Let's continue. So where was I? I was setting this and I was testing this. Yeah. So it passed. Next thing we will test is if a handler throws out a panic, then it should simply uh, call the retry engine again. I could test this in the same function, I think. Let's call mock store mock handler mock handler 1, mock handler 2 equals to this, and I will copy this one and this equals to this. Let's see if I can handlers. I am handling this as mock handler, and let's set up test 2 as mock handler 2. Okay, so I can run both of these, and I can also have a job here which is for like this. I will pass it here. Now you might be wondering what I'm doing is J2 J1, let's add J1 to the queue. After that, let's but I have only one. Let's have it 2. Let's see if we can do so. 2.job J2 and wait group.wait retry engine was not called after handle failure. Instead of failed, it should panic by saying something like not like this. That's normally do. Okay, it shouldn't return. It should just panic. And let's run failed. So the issue is wait group for the done. We have to debug it, or we can make it instead. Let's make it what we call it discrete from this one. Let's not have everything in one function. I think that's all I had done here. I can copy the above test and paste it as it is below, and call it handle error handle panic in handler. So whenever our what we call job or the task panics during processing, then we update the status to failed. If that can't be happened, we still set the handle failure to our we still call the handle failure. So let's set this up. I will handle the failure. How I will handle the failure is try engine was not called after handle. Sorry, I will handle the panic here. The function would be same here. Nothing would change much. Only the job 3 will be here, and I think I got what was missing. There I didn't change the ID, but no problem. Let's have discrete tests. Panic with trying to, and let's run it. It ran perfectly. So it handles panic, and that's all we need to test in worker pool processing. Last thing we need to test in worker pool is the round robin scheduling or round robin polling uh, that we created. Okay, so uh, test round robin, something like uh, round robin polling. So what I will do is I will create, let's say, some queues. Pool will have ampersand pool, which will be queues. Queues will be having um, q.q type slice. The first queue will be our manual queue as we defined. It needs a name, and that will be, let's say, q1. Copy this and push it down, q2 and q3. So what will happen is for the first polling, the pointer will be here. The second polling, the pointer will be here. Third polling, the pointer will be here. And for fourth polling, we want the pointer back to q1. Let's test it out. Um, let's have a q snapshot one. Q snap one as the first snapshot, which is internally our round robin scheduler. So let's go. If q snap one 0 dot name, its name is not equal to q1. If it is not q1, it means there was an error while processing our round robin. So t.errorf, I will print out expected first q, expected first q1, got percent q, let's have it, choose this one, need to pass it here, and that's all we need to check for first. So next will be qsnap2, qsnap3. We'll have 4 snapshots just like that, and let's have snap2. We'll call the qsnapshot again. Qsnap2 name is not equals to, it should be q2 for this one, and same goes for the next one. qsnap3, it should be q3, should be 3, and it should be 3. Lastly, it should rotate back or revolve back to our initial queue. So let's set this up. qsnap4 should be q1, expected wrap around to Q1. Wrap around to, let's say, P1 to Q1. Expected wrap around to Q1 got percent Q over Q is got name, and instead of Q snap 1 should be 2. Here it should be 3, and lastly it should be 2. And I think I'm done with this test too. Let's run the test, and it works fine. So this is it for the worker pool for now. Now let's move on to some important tests. First, what I will do is I'll create a test util so that I can test Redis Redis instance, so that I can call the Redis instance. So let's create a test utils package inside our internal test utils. Okay, let's collapse this on. I need test utils to have one util which is redis.go. So it will expose us two routes, two methods. One will be to get the Redis client, and the other will be a cleanup function to clean up the Redis before and after the test. So let's write the uh, tests or test helpers. So I will write first helper is get Redis client. This is the first helper. It is based on t testing dot t. It is on our testing package, and it will give us a Redis dot universal client pack. So it is a helper function. So let's mark it as a helper. And if os dot get env. Now you might be wondering why I'm not using the config, because I'm thinking I will remove the config in the uh, upcoming version, such that I will transform this into a library, so config will not be needed in the future. So that's why I'm not using config, and I'm using pure calls like this. So the environment variable was use Redis. If use Redis is not set to true, is not set to true, then we will simply say, then we will simply skip the test for Redis related image. Use Redis is not set to true, keeping Redis based test, so that a user can simply test the environment even without Redis tests. Okay, so this will be used in our Redis based test. Next, we will get the Redis URL. Let's get Redis URL. Let's get env Redis URL, which will be Redis underscore URL. Just to confirm, I will see that it is Redis underscore URL, and let's read. And let's have a small check. If Redis URL equals to empty, then we will call skip with what is this expected boolean equals. Oh, sorry, I was passing equal to, that's assignment. And Redis URL is not set, keeping Redis based test. It will skip again if Redis URL is not set. Next thing we need is to parse the Redis URL and create a new client. Let's get the options and the error from our Redis URL, Redis.parse URL with our Redis URL. Let's check if there is error. If error, then we will return. We will have a t.println, which is failed to parse Redis URL. And let's pass along our error percent v, the error percent err. Okay, next thing we need to do is create the client. Client equals to Redis dot universal client, no, Redis dot new client. Yep, new client. We need options which we pass from above, and that's we need. We have a client. We'll check the connection. If the connection persists, then we will return the client. If the connection does not persist, then we will simply say that we failed to connect with Redis. So for that we need a context diagram. Okay, if error in our client dot ping, I'll ping the Redis client with the text around us and dot err. We are interested in error not equals to nil. Then we will simply say t.println failed to connect to Redis. Alright, and percent v would be our error, and let's pass it along. That's all we need. Lastly, we will return the client, and that's a helper for all of the Redis-based tests. Next thing we need is a utility for clearing the Redis. One, clear Redis. So it will also take the form of like this. Start testing dot t. All right, and it will also take the universe our client Redis client Redis dot universal client. Okay, mark it as helper. What I will do is I'll have a context dot background, because I need to pass the context to work with Redis. If error in our client dot flush db, we will flush the db. We can have a different db for our test. That's why we have flush db instead of flush all. There can be multiple things running. That's why error not equal to nil. Then we will simply say p.println, which is failed to flush Redis. Failed to flush Redis. And the error will present to be the error. That's all we need from our test utils here. I'm thinking every time instead of calling job struct to create a new job, I can have a helper that creates like a job for us. So let's create a helper here. Jobs. Dot go. So what I will do is, wait a second. Okay. So what I will do is, I will simply have one function here, which will just create a new test job for us. Package test utils, one new test job. It will take ID, which is string, and it will also take priority as we need it in our queue processing or delay. And later, if we need anything else, we'll just add it here for the time being. But let's have it like this, and it will return as a job dot job means a struct job struct. Now will be time dot now. So this will represent when the job is created, and I think that is all we need. Payload equals to payload equals to, we have to marshal the JSON. Payload comma slash equals to JSON dot marshal. So our map of type string any, and it will have data. It is just for the text data test. Okay, that's all we need, and we'll return %, job dot job. So ID equals to ID. Next thing I have type. Let's have that type as test. And next thing I need is payload, which will be the payload from above. Next is priority. I need priority to be the priority passed by the user. Created it as now, and delay. I need delay, which will be passed by the user. Next I need is run after. Let's have a run after. Now add delay. So it will be like this. And for retry count, since we have already figured out the retry engine, we will set the retry count to 0 and the max retry is to an arbitrary 3 or 2, anything will work, no issues. Job dot status pending, and it will give us a job like this whenever we call new test job. So creating jobs is easier now. Now you might be wondering why I created this, because the next thing I'm going to test is our store. So let's go to our store, which is a site job. There is one test which is testing the memory store delete. Now what I will do is I will simply have a different test for Redis integration and memory part. Memory part will be pure logic-based testing, and integration will be calling the Redis itself. Okay, so let's do it. First, I need to add some more tests into our memory part, then I will move to Redis part. Redis part is easier than memory part. So let's do it. So first I will do is there is a test for deleting the memory store, deleting a job in the memory store. I will not change it to anyways, and I will have one test memory store. So I will simply uh, have it inside this as a subcase. Testing dot t. All right, and I will let's keep it different from that. So let's keep it different. Let's have a context here. If x goes to context dot background, always next thing we need is first and foremost we will check if we create a job, uh, if we create a new job and get that, if we save a new job, basically save and get. So that is what we are testing. So we need a function like this. Store will be like our new memory store with the job j equals to ampersand job. Uh, Instead, we have a function, we can call it test helper test utils dot new test job with id as let's say j1, nothing here, priority let it be 0, delay let it be 0 because that don't matter for us here. I will not change any test here, but from now on I will use the test utils package itself. Okay, now if we get an error while saving the job, if error is store dot save, let's pass the context and the job which is j, and we get error not equals to nil. Then we will simply call, we will simply pass t dot return f as save failed, and with error percent v error. That's all we need here, and let's also check the get state. If got error, I can't do this here, but I can do this got comma error like this equals to store dot get. I will get the job. I will pass the context. I will pass the ID, which is j dot ID, j dot ID. J isn't a type of invalid type. Why is it invalid type? It passes. It gives us, oh shit. It gives us a job and it will return the job. Why is this invalid type here? Why J is invalid? Store is invalid. Store J is invalid type. Why this is invalid type? Am I doing something wrong? Let's see. Firstly, let's write the test. If error not equals to if error, I will simply say get failed with the error, get failed with the error, and lastly, if got dot id is not equals to j dot id, this should result in p dot fatal f, fatal f, which is expected id, expected id percent v or percent s, so I should got percent s, and here we will pass got dot id, it will be like this, v and j dot id, like this. Let's run the test. It fails. Import cycle not allowed in test. It is a helper. What is the issue? It is a helper. There shouldn't be an issue like this. Okay, 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 okay. But if I mark it as a dot helper, but that will be like let's Google it. Import cycle not allowed in program. Okay, let's see. Um, what happens here? Import cycle not allowed is a compile time error. Import that occurs when two or more packages depend on each other directly or indirectly. Yep, that's a cycle. Creating a loop-in dependency. So I can't use the job functionality in our test suite here, but I can use, I think, in our Redis-based testing, because there uh, we will be using the job underscore test package, not the job package like this. So let's have instead of this, let's create a job by itself. 10% job. It will be like, what's the issue? Okay, no issues. Have not it. Why is the compiler crying? Let's set it. ID J1, and let's have a type test, and lastly status pending. And that's all we need here. Let's run the test. Import cycle. Yeah, import still importing the package about 6. Let's run the test, and now it succeeds without any issue. Uh, Next thing, after save and get, I want to check update status, valid and invalid states. If I send a status like which is valid, which is valid transition, and if I send a status like which is not a valid transition, so that's the behavior we are testing. T.run, which will be update status valid. On this, we have to create a store and a job like this. Let's copy it and have it here. Let's have it change to the test status pending. That's good. Anything more we need? Yep, we need to save this to our store. Dot save to our store context and which is store store. Okay. Now we will check for errors. If error in store dot update status 3dx j2 lastly our status will be status running. That's we need. Then we will say update status failed. Error not equals to nil. Then we will simply say p.fatal update status failed like %v and the status will be the error will be like this. That's how we need here. Next thing we are going to check is if we get the same value after if we get this status running as after getting back the what we call it this I call this exponential ID. Wait a second, guys. One call. Sorry for that. I was on a call. So if got.status is not equals to status.running, we will simply say expected p.fatal f fatal f fatal f expected also it should be a string like this expected status %s dot %s and let's have this. The status we were expecting was status running, and lastly we got dot status. That's we need. Last thing we need to check is invalid transition. That should result in an error. So let's copy this out and paste it here. Update status invalid. It means invalid transition is there. From status pending, I will try to go to status. Let's say status done, which is not possible. Okay, so we need the error. We need to check this. We need to store the error here. If error, usually we check if error is not equal to nil. Here we will check if error equals to nil. Then we will go with p.error expected error for invalid transaction or transition, whatever it is, no issues. Let's run the test. Test is working fine. So now I'm done with this. One thing I need to do is get I want to rename this file in Git. That is, I will rename it to internal. In the internal package, it's a job. In that it will store underscore test.go. I will name it memory store underscore test. Something like that. So I will name it internal job slash store, or it would be memory underscore store underscore test dot go. So it's being renamed. It has been renamed, and let's okay. So I have a memory-based test here, and that's running fine, smooth. Next thing we need to do is Redis-based test for the store. So let's write Redis underscore store underscore test dot do. Since these are integration tests, I will use the package as job underscore test instead of the job package. So here we can create package job underscore test, and let's write the context. So first, we will simply check the things we checked in our memory store using Redis. So let's write the implementation. One test Redis store watch to. I need to import it. Let's the import statement, and that's good. So we will need a client. Client will be equal to test utils dot new get Redis client. We need a Redis client, and we need to pass the context, which is our test context. Okay. Oh, sorry, we will need to pass our testing pointer. That's all we need here. And let's defer client dot close. So we need to close the connection of the test hub with that. So let's create a context with context dot background, and a TTL. Let's say one into, let's say a TTL of 1 hour. 9.hour. And that's all we need before starting the test. So first test will be simply as we did, save and kept. This is our first test. Let's write the functionality test utils. Before starting the test, let's clear the Redis. Redis cleared. Let's pass the client, and that's done. So let's create a new job. Sorry, a new store. We need a new store. Store. And it also gives us an error. It only gives us an error. Let's see when it gives us an error. When I remember, it gives us an error if we are not able to connect to the client, or if the client is not present. So we shouldn't worry about error here because we have checked the client connection number over there. So let's write Redis. Sorry, it should be job dot new Redis store. We need the Redis client, which will be client. We need a TTL, which is TTL. And anything else we need? We don't need anything else. We have a store. Let's create one job. J1 test utils dot new test job. Let's set ID J1, priority 5, and duration delay is 0. That's we need. And let's save the job in Redis. Now we will check for error. If error in store dot save, the context will be our PPX and the job will be our J1, right? If we get an error, we will simply flip left. Error not equals to nil. We will say t dot error f or t dot fatal left. Because this is a fatal error, we wanted to save it. Save failed and let's pass it as an error percent read the error here. Same with get and then we will check the ID. Let's see. I can simply go here, get the test results from this one because we are going to check the same thing. Let's change the naming a little bit. This is helpful because of our context and it will be J1 because of our interface. I can check both Redis and this in one go. Context, we need dot instead of passing j1.id, I can simply pass j1 and let it be j1.id. Okay, I have got error. If error is not equal to nil, where is the issue? Yeah, yes. What is not equal to j1.id? Let's also check the priority and type because in our test utils we had set the priority and type. You can see, let's see here. As you can see here, we have also set not like this. Where's this? Nope, not here. Let's call it no issues. I think you can remember in a way. If not, you can visit the GitHub. If got dot id is not equals to j dot id, that is also ready checked. Or got dot priority is not equals to j dot priority, which is our j1 dot priority, or last types mismatch. What dot type is not equals to j1 dot type. That's all we need. j1 is getting invalid type again. Why is the hell is it getting invalid type? It was working fine till now. Well, let's run the test. Retry. But why is it getting inverted type? In the compiler getting no, let it be. No issues. G dot return or error app job mismatch. Job mismatch. Expected plus b percent plus b here dot percent plus b. So I will pass it j1 and dot directly here. So that's all we need. Next we need to check update status. Oh, let's create some test for update status. So let's t.run update status. Okay. We will check the valid and invalid transition in one go. No issues. Okay, let's check it. So we need a function. Then we need to clear out the Redis, create a new job like this, and create a new job and a store and a j1.status is pending if I remember. Yep, it was pending, but to be sure, percent job, but can I do something like this? Can I typecast it to job.job like that? So I should let's live without what we call as suggestions. So first thing we need is dot j1 dot status is always already set. So let's save it to the store. Where did we store? Store dot save j1. And we need a context here. I put the and that's what we need here. Let's have a valid transaction or valid transition. Valid transition. If there is a valid transition, that should work fine without any issues. If there is not a valid transition, then there will be error. So let's have. This is the last test I will be writing. I'm bored of writing test here. We'll continue tomorrow. Store dot update status ptx. The ID j1 or something like this. And the status is we need to update the status to job.status. Status running as we need. And error we got not equals to nil. Then we will simply say error expected valid transition valid transition to succeed. Dot error percent. So we have valid transition. Next, we will get a job. Let's simply get the job. Dot this. I'm wondering why I'm not checking error here because that is checked in our previous test case. Store dot get will get taking x comma j1 and that's we need and define. Let's call it the Snowflake ID. Now we have a job in this and if dot status is not equals to this we need status to be running, then we will simply say expected status to be running. Dot percent s dot dot status. That's really next. We need last thing we need is invalid transaction should result in an error. So where is our memory store test? I will simply copy this invalid transition. From running, it can go to status done, but I will simply call it to job.status pending. If there is error, if error is not, if error equals to nil, error, expected error for invalid transition. Yes, that's all we need. Let's run the test. It's working fine. Let's run all the tests once and close the stream for today. I'll continue writing more tests tomorrow and onwards. So here we got handlers okay, internal job okay, okay. Until now, the tests are all passing, and that's all we need. Now, thanks for watching. I'll meet you tomorrow with the same things, writing tests. This week is a long week. I have to write a lot of tests. No issues. We'll write tests. Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye.